Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. So let's jump in. I got several things that I want to cover. That resource directory that I sent out yesterday, and I think you've already gotten that once. I added a line to it, which says, it's a Tony Robbins quote. Obviously, I listen to a lot of material, so you can always tell if I'm driving into my car because I have to reach down and stop playing something and save it until I get to the office. And then I have to play it again so that I can write it down and regurgitate this back to you. But your greatest resource, the greatest resource you have is your own resourcefulness. And in this business, that is like one of the truest things that you'll ever absorb, because it's so easy to ask other people questions in this business and go with the answer. And it's a dangerous thing to do. And it's only because, not because anybody's trying to give you bad information. Nobody would try to do that intentionally. I never have. It's just that you have information in your head about the situation that you're asking someone about that they don't have. You're not keeping it from them on purpose. You just think they know everything that you know when you ask the question, and then you can get a faulty answer. I put that resource director. I wanted that resource director to go out. I want you to copy and paste it onto your desktop and go there all the time and learn how to use those tools, because knowing how to get the answer is more valuable than getting the answer. And you'll always be, and this business is challenging in that this stuff changes all the time. I know Giuseppe's always been somebody that would read the updated product stuff every weekend. And it's like, well, you got to know this stuff, and you do have to know this stuff. And if that's not part of your weekly protocol, you need to make it part of what you do. Is what's changed? What do I need to know that I don't know? Because, we've made a living here on the trauma center because we know how to do loans other people could do if they knew how. They just don't know how. And the only reason we know how is we've read the freaking guidelines, because that's all this is. And it's such a powerful thing. And so I just want to make sure that I impart that and that you don't miss that nugget, because it's a super powerful way to educate yourself and become really good at doing the loan stuff. You have to know this stuff. You can't wing this. It just isn't, because like I said, this business will teach you really tough lessons sometimes when you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not talking to you, Jessica. I'm talking to everybody. This is about knowing all of this information. But because I said that about the harsh lesson thing a minute ago, and when I was talking to you, and so this business does teach you those harsh lessons. And I just want you to know, I don't want that to happen to you ever. And the only way is time, and time in the seat is the answer to almost everything that you're doing. So we put that resource together, and it's a link to, so every one of those links is a live link. Save that on your desktop and pull it up whenever you have a question you're not sure the answer to. So because knowing the answer is the most valuable thing. My worst day in this business was 6 months in. I told a borrower they were getting a loan, and I had to tell her the day before she was closing she was not going to get the loan. And I hated this job. I was like, dude, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Like that was such a horrible feeling. And then the realtor ripped me a new one. And then she called the owner of the company and she ripped him a new one. And I was like, dude, I don't even know. What am I doing? Like it was tough. And it was just because I had relied on other people's information and I didn't do the research myself. And I just kept going, okay, you're sure. And I didn't do any research. And so that's what I don't want for you. So there you go. The next thing I want to talk about is I mentioned this on the recording yesterday, is that having done this, I got an email back from Ryan on this one. I said, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. It's like, yeah, I'm really old. And so I have been doing this for a long time. And what I do know is that closing loans well is it's about teamwork and developing a strong working relationship with the operations team. And that's such an important part of what you do. So much of this is on you setting up a really good loan. All the coaching that I've been involved in, Tim Brahim, when he does his perfect loan process training outline, the very beginning of this is always his focus on this starts with you putting together a great loan application, having all of the information that you need so that there is no question that loan's going to work. There's no question. And if you find yourself spending a lot of time after you've turned loans in, going back and forth with an underwriter, you haven't done that, right? That it's like, because all of that stuff doesn't have to happen. It never has to happen. And There's people here that turn in loans that they never experienced that. And then there's people who turn this in and they experience that. And it doesn't ever have to be that way. But it's so understand that it starts with you. And then what today I want to focus on is developing a stronger working relationship with your operations people, your support team, the processors. And if you have an assistant, your assistants, but especially with the processors. And I want to point out some economics that I think are really fascinating. And the economics of this is and our processors aren't making this kind of money right now because nobody's doing this much business. But if a processor was to be able to consistently close 20 loans a month, 240 loans a year, and make $100,000 doing it, which is a lot of money for a processor. Anybody been doing this for a long time knows that's really good living for a processor. You know how much that is per loan? Quickly do the math. It's $416 a loan, less than a tenth of what you earn on the same transaction. And I just want to point that out because who should know more? Who should be more on top of what's going on with that file? You or the person making less than 1/10 of what you are. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't know their job and they shouldn't know their shit. I'm saying you should know it too. You should know it just as well. So, because that's just the economics. And the other thing that I'll point out is none of you are currently managing a 20 loan pipeline, right? None of us have that big of a pipeline right now. And that's about the size of the pipeline both Jenna and Chelsea are managing right now. And so, which is one of the reasons why we needed to get another body in here so that we could have some backup. But that said, just developing that working relationship makes your life so much easier, and developing a strong working relationship. And it starts with two things. I think it's the first part of this is doing a really strong handoff call when it's time for you to do that handoff call. So I don't know, I'm not sure how consistently these handoff calls are taking place. It just occurred to me last night when I was getting ready to talk about this as to whether or not, I'm not sure that you're all having a handoff call, but you need to be having that handoff call, and you need to get into the details. Like, you want them to know everything that you know, and you want them to ask every question. And if they're not asking, you need to make sure that they're asking. You get short files. We do fast closings here all the time. Those are the files, especially. You got 10-day closing, 12-day, 15-day closing. That's fast, guys. That's just fast. And so everything that needs to happen you guys need to be on it just like they do. And then you really do need to pay attention to it. So that's where the pipeline meeting becomes an important part of your work. So whenever that pipeline meeting is every week, you need to be on the call. So if you're delegating that to an assistant, I highly discourage that practice, because again, we're back to the same thing, the math. Like, the truth of this business is that we loan officers, the producing loan officer pays the ultimate price when it goes bad. We all agree that's what happens, right? You're the one that gets yelled at. You're the customer hates you, the realtor hates you. You could lose 5 transactions a year for the rest of your life if you piss off the wrong realtor, right? So none of us want that to happen. And I don't want that. I never want that to happen. I die inside when that's happening, right? Like, it kills me because I get your email, I get your chat message, right? And so I'm telling you that it never has to happen if you are an active participant in what's going on with the deadlines on your files. So I don't know. Again, I didn't do a poll. I didn't ask operations. I didn't ask Kim or the processors who's coming to their pipeline meetings. I don't care. What I'm saying is, you need to participate, and because it's your freaking livelihood, and it's the most important part of the delivery of what you've promised is incumbent upon everybody doing what they're supposed to do, and you being on top of everything. And all it is awareness. It's just what it comes down to. I'm not this operations team. It's just us talking here, right? Like, they've had some breakdowns. They've had some balls dropped here in the last few months, and we're working our butts off to get that corrected. We're going to be doing some more expectation resets of what I expect from you, my expectations for loan officers at Zenith Home Loans, and then what my expectations are for the processors and the support teams at Zenith Home Loans. We have to do things the same way, right? We have to have consistent processes. That's how you scale. That's how you'll scale your business. So, so I just want to emphasize the importance of this, because at the end of the day, your job is to go out and get business, and you can't do it if you get derailed, right? I know what it feels like, because I got the emails like going, hey, your loan's suspended, or I've like all of it, like everything stops when you get that email that says, we have a problem on your loan, because everything, I know exactly how it feels. You get emotionally hijacked. Your day is hijacked. You can't stay focused on the business building activities that you need to stay focused on. And that starts with you going back to the very beginning of turning in a tight file where you had a really great handoff with your operations person. You covered all of the bases, you know everything. They know everything that's important. And then you do that pipeline meeting. So Jacqueline has built out a report, and I lean on Jacqueline for this, not because she's my daughter, but because she's done the other job, and she's doing your job. So she's had the other job working in that operations department and running. Her insights are super valuable to you. So she's extremely gracious with her time. So if you ever want to reach out to her and ask her those types of questions of what that's like on that side of it, because Jonathan has worked there, Ryan has worked there, Chris has worked there, Giuseppe has worked there, John's done that work. So you know what the work is, but having it done at a high level where you're managing a big pipeline is it's definitely a challenging thing. And they're working on 20 loans. And if you sat and watched them work one day, if you came in and watched them work on like a whole pipeline, you'd be surprised at how many. You get a lot of emails, they get just as many, if not more. Jacqueline, can you share your pipeline report? Really, I just asked Jacqueline to kind of maybe go over, I don't know if any of you do anything like this, but just as an example, and she can share this report with you, and how she's handling that, and talk a little bit about your handoff call, if you could. Unmute.
Okay. So this is just a super simple report that I built in Encompass, just because I felt like that was going to be the least amount of manual entry. And that's really what I'm going for, because I want a quick report. And so this is in Encompass. I have it shareable. So if anybody else wants it, let me know and I can kind of show you how to tweak it for yourself. But really, my pipeline meetings with my processor and my assistant are on Monday. So it's super convenient. I pull it Monday morning. I pull a copy for both of the girls. I meet with them face to face because I'm in the office, and so that helps quite a bit too. And then we'll do a Zoom, obviously, if I'm not in the office for some reason. But we basically just go through like the dates and deadlines that are coming up and just make sure that we're good, so that we can make notes on what we need to follow up on. Katie, who's my LOA, she can provide insight on stuff that's coming up and things like that. And then for the deadlines that we know, okay, so loan objection deadlines in 3 days, are we good? What's missing? Do I need to follow up with the client and those kinds of things? Because let
me just interject right there.
Go ahead.
When they say we're good, like, are we clear to close good, or are we waiting for some of them to sign off on some? You need to find out if you're 2 or 3 days away from a clear to close deadline. You need to find out what you're waiting for and whether or not you guys can tell if it's an issue, right? Like, you know when something's an issue, you know when you have a deal killing thing and when you don't, right? So asking deeper questions when like, yeah, we should be good, is like, well, what are we waiting for? Like, right?
And so we have that conversation. Yeah. We do the meetings in our office. And so if there's questions about anything, we'll jump into the file so that we're all looking at it together and we can kind of talk through anything that's pending. I can jump into Flowify and things like that. So it just gives us time to like really dive into each of the files. What's been helpful too is if I do get contracts over the weekend or something hasn't been turned over yet, I've got Katie and Jenna both sitting there and we can have a conversation live about this file that's coming, any nuances with it and things like that, just so that she's got a little bit of a heads up of kind of what it might look like, and things like that. Truthfully, because my pipeline's been so light, I haven't been doing a handoff call. But I try to be in the office and I have a lot of face-to-face conversations with Jenna and with Katie, on my pipeline pretty regularly. So that's been beneficial, but as the pipeline grows and as they get busier, that's going to become less of an option because people are just not going to have time. So that'll be something that we re-implement. But as far as Katie and I and the turnover, and something that you guys can be doing if you don't have an assistant, is just making sure that your notes, I add notes into that turnover screen as I'm building the file so that I don't forget something, because you can forget stuff too if the client said, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and it was just a one-off conversation. So This pipeline report, I just keep it on my desk all week. I've got notes and things that were pending. Like, for example, the clause file that's on here, on Monday, we were still pending homeowners insurance. And we wanted to make sure that we had that resolved. And so we put a plan in place, and I had a reminder in there so that I could schedule a task for myself to follow up if I hadn't heard back, to make sure that we really did get the homeowners insurance in time for our closing next week. So this is a report that I used to pull when I was running operations, and I would meet with each of the processors weekly. And then it was a report I would run at the end of every day. So I knew what pipeline, what tasks or deadlines and stuff were coming up for the next day. So it just helped me to stay on top of the deadlines, because there's nothing worse than getting an email from a realtor's like, hey, appraisal deadlines today, and not really knowing that appraisal deadline.
Well, and I'll tell you guys what I get. Okay. So what I get is a loan officer emailing me that they are surprised by something they're just now finding out, and that they should have already known. And I'm like, yeah, I know you should have already known. Why didn't you? and it's like, because you can. That's the thing, is that you can know. And so this is your business, and you need to be intimately involved. What are we talking on a per file basis, Jacqueline? How long are you spending on a per loan, on each live loan that's in the pipeline when you do a pipeline meeting? How much time are you speaking about one loan?
2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not long.
So
our pipeline meetings are maybe, unless there's a lot going on or we've got an issue on a file, the pipeline meetings maybe 10, 15 minutes. Like, it's not long.
You guys have 10 or 15 minutes. You have it, and you need to take it, and you need to get a lot out of it, because it's your business. And so I just want to emphasize the importance of it. I would definitely not be skipping these handoff calls, as challenging as those can be to make time for with the operations people. I would just do it, because again, you know everything, because you're intimately involved, right? Like, you know everything. And I would want to impart as much of that knowledge as I possibly could. They're going to ask you a question maybe you didn't make a note of, and your notes need to be thorough. Not credits fine isn't really like, I mean, unless it really is fine and there isn't anything, then credits fine isn't necessarily like the best and most concise bit of information that you'd want a processor to know if you think something's going to come up. So thanks, Jacqueline. I appreciate it. And if anybody wants that, please let her know. And does anybody have any questions or anything that they'd like to ask regarding this subject?
I do the same, just so everyone knows, on Wednesdays at 1:30. I like Wednesday, because then I know, like, we're getting ready for CDs and the rest of the week, and then like Monday, and then but that's me. But yeah, it takes about 30 minutes, and then Annie sends me this pipeline that we've used for years, and I just print it out, and Jonathan knows, and put it on my desk, so it's right there.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any surprise. My point is that there should be no surprises, and that and then you guys are part of the solution too. Like, if you know something and you can, if they're having trouble with something, you guys get so much more leverage than a processor does. And you have so much more leverage with a realtor and with a customer if you're waiting. And then talk real quick, Jacqueline, insurance. What are you telling your clients right now, and when you have to have insurance to be able to close on time?
So homeowners insurance, I requested at the time. I have a turnover email that I send over to them, and there's a bunch of dates and deadlines in there for docs and stuff. Depending on closing timeline, I usually give them like 3 or 4 days to get me homeowners insurance. And then I'm telling them, if they don't have it to me, the 5 days before closing, that I have to move their closing date out.
They're buying a house. They need insurance, guys. Get it final. Because when you're changing insurance a day before closing, 2 days before closing, the file has to be re-underwritten. And nobody's sitting around with nothing to do waiting to re-underwrite your file. They're just not. And so I always say that whenever like processors and underwriters aren't filing their nails waiting for you to email them and ask them a question or send them, oh yeah, I can jump right on that. That's not what they're doing. And so anyway.
And obviously I'm never going to move a closing date because of insurance, but I need the buyer to be on the hook for something. And
don't you want to eliminate drama for yourself and for them,
yeah.
Right?
Well, and I'll start involving, like, I'll ask, and then if they're still not getting it, and then I'll call the agent and be like, hey, I need your help on this. And because they're not doing this, and I'm running out of time, I can't issue clear to close without an insurance policy. And So I'll start soliciting that help. And then, I mean, it's rare that I run into an issue because I've been more proactive about it since I've started doing that. Anytime we have an issue, it's like there's something we can't get insured, there's something wrong with the house, like there's one-off situations, and those are not in my control. But having the client physically call somebody to just get the insurance, we can usually make that happen fast if we needed to.
So I think you said something there that's really, you said something during this that was really valuable, the face-to-face time. Mondays and Wednesdays, the entire ops team is coming in. It's mandatory that they all come in. Chelsea, because she lives so far away, isn't coming in every Monday and Wednesday. We're working on her having a set day that she's coming. But having that face-to-face time is super valuable. And so getting down here to the tech center office to get FaceTime with your operations people, with Kelly, with Kim, is only going to serve you more and more as you work to develop those relationships. So please invest that time. It's super. Chris, come on over and bring Annie, because the time that they spend FaceTime is super valuable. It's just valuable, right? You're just building a relationship with other people. They're human beings just like you, and you'll get to know them. And when you know somebody more on a personal level, it changes everything, right? It changes everything for all of us. So just keep that in mind. And not going to make it mandatory, but make it mandatory for yourself. And just like, I got to make sure I have a strong working relationship. It's exactly what Christine's got to jump for CE. Thanks, Christine. Make your life easier for yourself by just making this investment. You have to grow as a leader. You have to grow as a professional. If you want to have the kind of business that we talk about, you're able to have. You have to continue to grow and make that investment in each other. So I want to talk quickly about the Friday focus that I've been writing about the last few weeks, because this is going to be part of what our 2024 business planning subject is. I really need everybody to start thinking about what is it that I know the kind of business all of you want to have. So what is it that you could do? I have figured out a way to make sure that I'm not going to have more than 12 alcoholic drinks in a week, right? I figured out a way. It's bulletproof by the threat of having to write a check or having to have a check cashed for $1,000 to a political party I do not support. So I'm not going to let that check get cashed. So I'm not going to have 12 drinks in a week. It's just not going to happen. And while not everybody is motivated, what I've been writing about is that's a stick motivation for me. Other people like a carrot motivation. Like, what do I get to do if I do such and such? I talked about it this week, like, Haber, you and Ryan golf nuts. So if you were planning a trip to, I don't know, the golf mecca of America, and okay, I want to go to the Masters and here's how I'm going. Or I want to go play whatever course that you want to play, and here's how I'm going to go. If I do this thing for when it comes to the metrics in my business that I know I need that are going to have the biggest impact on my growth, I'm going to go on that trip. And then you enlist like Ryan, because he would go with you because he's a golf nut, and Jay maybe because he's a golf nut, and anybody else who's a golf nut, and just say, okay, let's do this. We're all going to take this trip, but in order to be able to go, we have to do this level of prospecting, and there'd be no point in lying, because then what would be the point of this? But it's coming up with that thing, that motivation thing. The other one would be a trip with your kids. So if you promise to take your kids, for the guys who have little guys, to Disneyland, or I don't know, Disney World, or I would go to Disneyland, but Hawaii or some trip like that you'd be like, okay, guys, if I do this, I'm going to take you guys all on trip. Your kids will be like, you're never going to let your kids down. Like, I have to do it now, right? You could do this for fitness. You could do this for your finances. You could do it as long as you could find that thing that you would never not do because of that. That is really powerful motivation. And I think it's how you could develop this superpower of being able to accomplish whatever goal you set for yourself. So read that Friday focus. We're going to be talking about it more as we move into November, December for business planning. But that's what I wanted to share. And then the last thing is, I want to give you some Ryan and I were talking about this yesterday, about some housing that he's been seeing where, like, the price drops. He's starting to see like significant price drops. You saw a house the other day that had a $50,000 price drop and an $800,000 price range. That's a lot of dough. And so it got me thinking, what are our clients thinking? The ones that are on the sidelines, your pre-approved buyers that are out there, the kind of information that I think that you need to share is focused on the fact that you can never change the price of the house after you buy it, right? But you can always change the price. You can always change the interest rate when the rate changes. But once you've bought the house, you can't. Well, just having people understand what's going to happen when rates start to come down and how demand is going to go through the roof, and these price drops are not going to exist anymore. I would tell you that I think there's a great opportunity right now to get that information out to the pre-approvals that are in your pipeline that maybe aren't shopping. Just like, dude, I'm starting to see this. This would be a good time for you to do this, and then explain that motivation and what's going to happen when those rates start to come down. Because you all have plenty of material and marketing material around that idea of what's going to happen when the rates come down. People are just going to come out of the woodwork. What I think we said, if for every 1% drop in interest rates, 5 million more home buyers are going to become active, and there aren't that many homes, right? So the price of the homes will have to go up. The concessions will go away. There won't be, you'll be waiving inspection. You'll be waiving appraisal. You'll be bidding up over the asking price. Now is the time, especially as you go into the holidays, you can, and I would be having these conversations with my real estate agents as well. So try to think about a script that you could put together, that you could put something out on social media around this subject of the house price never changes after you buy the house. The interest rate can always change and get better when the market improves. So jump on it, guys, because I think that's the thing that
as a realtor, I have access to the MLS, and I can tell you every day or every month or whatever, the price increase and the price decrease amount of the homes that are out there. So have you guys call your realtors and ask them for that information. That way you have a way to contact your realtor and ask them a legitimate question. And then you'll get the information, and you can say 500 homes have lowered their price in the last 30 days. Or whatever.
Can you get that information for us and share it with everybody?
I can get it. Yeah, every day I can get it.
Well, not every day, but
I mean, I have access to it every day. So whatever you want.
Could you get it for us for like the price drops the last week?
Yes.
Send that out to everybody.
Okay.
How many homes dropped their prices in the last week, guys?
Right.
That's a great takeaway that you need to share, because you've got pre-approved buyers. All of you do.
Yeah.
Get them excited about and get them motivated to want to go and make an offer on a house. All right. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I have one thing. It would be worth it to put together a mortgage coach presentation of a $600,000 house or whatever at today's interest rate, and then show what a rate drop of 1% or whatever in a year does to the payment, but with an accelerated purchase price. The payment's not different. And now you're paying more for the house. So I think that's beneficial to show.
Well, and the other thing that's going to happen, and this could be part of the marketing as well, is like, and when those rates drop, the price is going to skyrocket, right? We know we're going to see, when we say they're going to skyrocket, the appreciation is going to accelerate. And right now, appreciation is not happening. It's not accelerating. I mean, it's happening, but it's very minimal. And the reason there's price drops isn't because housing is a problem. It's because greedy sellers are greedy sellers, right? They want as much as they can get. And so they price their house out of the market, and it's not moving. And that's why you see a price drop. 50 grand on it. What was the price? Ryan, what was the price?
I think it was either like the new price is like 810 or 825, something like that. And I like looked at this house and I was like, just looked at pictures like this house is sitting. Cause like 2 years ago, we looked back and like this house would have gone 100K over ask easily. It was crazy.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So take advantage of this. You've got buyers, they're pre-approved. What's going to help us get through these next 4 months is the nitty gritty like this. Nitty gritty, grinding, sharing as much information as possible, and having real estate agents and buyers want to talk to you. I showed you that graphic a couple of weeks ago of how many homes are closing every single month. There's plenty of transactions. It's just, we got to get in front of more. That's it.
And to your point, just really quickly too, I've been asking clients like, why are you wanting to move right now? Rates are so high. Like, what is I've never said like rates are so high, but I'm just get their motivation. They're like, I'm seeing these houses sit. And one of my clients that was kind of competing earlier this year has now like just been chilling. And then yesterday was like, dude, these houses are awesome. I'm going to go back in the market. So there's definitely people like that out there. And those cost of waiting TCAs, I think it'd be good to get just like send them over as a text to agents, because the agents want to have that like, hey, look, right? I've got this from my lender of like, if you wait, this is what could happen kind of information. And every agent that I've sent that to is like, this is great. Thanks so much for shooting us over. So just a thought there too.
So Lori, you're going to send out how many homes dropped in price the last week for everybody. So you have some more ammunition, guys. And then again, get that information out there. Call your pre-approved buyers, especially the ones that you know are super active.
Ryan, the cost of waiting on a mortgage MBS might be a little bit easier for realtors to understand.
I honestly just set up the TCA and I just like, we'll do like right now and then a year from now. And then I'll just do like
Just two.
700, 750, right? And what the rates are now and a percent lower. And then it's just easier to like, rather than doing a true cost of waiting analysis.
I've done that and just add a third column. What if they buy now and refinance later? Because
Yeah.
then it
Then you plug in the
drives it home.
appreciation and you plug in the
Oh.
appreciation.
Not even that. just-
In my message on the video, it's just been like, well, if you're gonna pay $50,000 more, like if it's gonna cost $50,000 more, why not put $50,000 into your equity instead of having to pay $50,000 more? You can get a better payment at the end of the day after you do a refinance.
Yeah, I think I feel like there's something around the hook of you can never change the price of the house after you bought it.
Well, and I think also creating the clarity around 2-1 buy downs, right? People that were competing couldn't do with 2-1 buy downs. Obviously, we were doing a lot of buyer funded 2-1s just to like get creative. But right now, everybody can get one, right? So if you buy now, you could have a lower interest rate for the first year if you buy now compared to if you wait when rates come down. And people are like, huh?
Thanks,
What does that
Jack.
mean? So.
All right, gang. Thank you. This was a great call. Talk to you soon.